pretend. Keep on driving and driving along the road tonight. Lost my head over my back between the jars and bottle jack. Just me and all the red lights. Keep on driving and driving. In the heat from a hot California, I forgot how you look like in rain. I swear I never thought it would matter if I'm gone by now. All my weakness keep on linger on repeat like it will be my favorite song. Oh, I know I should be moving on, but you got me good, you got me good. I keep on driving till it bends, still it feels like I pretend. Keep on driving and driving along the road tonight. Lost my head over my back between the jars and bottle jack. Just me and all the red lights. Keep on driving and driving. All the memories just lingers on repeat like it is never gonna stop. I can't help myself from feeling all alone, but you got me good, oh, you got me good.
Whoa, welcome to Straight Talk with Sally. It's podcast batching day, which means we have lots of amazing guests for you today. We had to move our first session, so if everyone was really excited to hear from Jay, we've had to reschedule. She lost power. So we have a couple of guests today because we missed. Podcast batching day. Usually we do 3 to 4 guests, but today we've got 2 amazing people. So today's this session, we're talking to Rick, and next after Rick, we'll be meeting Kerry. They're both amazing. So hang on in and set your reminders. If you don't want to miss any of our lives, make sure you go there, or if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, right? Make sure you subscribe to the channel and also turn on your notifications, ding ding, so you don't miss any of the lives. But today's a really, really awesome episode with, somebody who is great at photography. Our guest today has been a photographer for 31 years and worked with almost every aspect when it comes to the photography industry, photographing everything from weddings, fashion, family portrait, business portraits, real estate, and studio photography. He's even worked in journalism as a photography guy, and also he photographed my wedding day, right? It was so funny. I recently went out and had a photo shoot done, and we realized it was the day before my wedding anniversary. And that was 18 years ago. Now, he has won many, many awards, including two gold, one in in the United Kingdom, silver distinctions won in the US, 25 silver awards won in Australia, and he's also Judges' Choice Award in the UK in 2017. He's been the finalist with 12 photographers in the running for the Photographer of the Year in the UK. I mean, this guy, he's got badges and honours and prizes and awards everywhere, and his photography is absolutely stunning, I can tell you. So if you have really been enjoying seeing all of the new photos that have been going up on social media, well, my team are really happy too, because for 2 years they've been using the same 3 images in my promotion. So they finally have some actual better photos than me actually just taking my own selfies. So let's welcome my favourite photographer, Rick, to Straight Talk with Sally. Hi, Rick. So good to have you.
Sally, it's great to be here. And you know what? When you hear somebody rattle off all the awards I've won, rather than me just reading them on my website, it actually sounds like I've got a lot.
You have. I've watched you and continued to stalk you on social over the years, and watching all of the awards that you've won, and it's been really, really awesome to see the transition, and even watching how more professional and you know, that evolution that I've seen you go through since you even did our photography 17 or so years ago. So. Yeah, it's only a number. We're still with the same guy, so you know it must be we're doing all right. But before we get into like talking about your topic today, I want you to share, I guess, a little bit about yourself. Why photography? How did you get here? What was your journey to actually, you know, sticking with this one thing for 31 years?
Well, I'll make this really quick because I don't want it to take up the whole hour or so. But I actually decided when I was in grade 2, okay, that this is what I wanted to do. Now, back then, we had an art class in grade 2, and the teacher made us make what's called a pinhole camera. And a pinhole camera is just a box with a pinhole in one side with a bit of tape over it. And inside the box, we put a bit of paper. Okay, we go out into the playground and we take the tape off. We count to 30, being 30 seconds, tape it back up, and go inside. Now, I went and I photographed the flag, okay, on the pole, went back into the art room, and I put my paper into the developer. And as that photo appeared, okay, now it was obviously, you know, in a dark room, it's pre-digital days, so total darkness except the red light that was on. And I see this photo appear, and I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a photographer. I love this. So I started telling everybody from grade 2, so, you know, a 7-year-old, when I grow up, I'm going to be a photographer. And people would say to me, that's not a job, that's a hobby. Go get a real job.
Yeah.
Okay. So I went through all of school thinking, well, what am I going to do? I want to be a photographer, but that's a hobby, it's not a job. Tried to get into primary teaching, missed out by 3 points. Okay. And got my first job at Ted's Camera Stores working with cameras. And I suppose the rest is history, because from there on, all I ever did was take photos. You know?
Wow.
So, you know what? And the thing about it is I get just as excited today, 31 years down the track, when I see people picking up their photos or my photos being used in a marketing campaign. I get just as excited today as what I did, you know, 31 years ago when I saw or even, you know, further back when I first saw my photos appear in that developer.
Yeah. Oh, look, I mean, I love photography. I studied it as well. I never stuck with it like you did, but the smell of a dark room. Oh, I love the smell of a dark room.
Yeah.
Like, because when I was in high school, we did the photography, and but then all digital came in, right?
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
every other person called themselves a photographer because they had a camera in their hand. And there's
That's
a
right.
huge difference, right, between like snapping a photo and actual real professional photography. There's a lot of skill involved, right?
There's a lot more to it, you know. Like I think the digital has been great, you know, like it's advanced photography in leaps and bounds, but it's created a generation of people that take photos but don't actually understand how to take a photo. And I think that's where I'm lucky, you know. I learned with film, and the first, I suppose, professional camera I had was one that you actually wound up the film. You know, it was a Mamiya or a Hasselblad. Um, so it wasn't just about, taking 1,000 photos and getting one right,
Mm-hmm.
because if you took 1,000 photos, it was going to cost you a fortune in developing costs. You know,
Exactly.
so it was more about, let's get everything right, let's get the pose right, let's get the person right, and taking the photo was secondary. Now
Yes.
it's kind of
It's the other
flipped around.
way. It is, isn't it? Yeah, same thing is I remember winding my own film onto like the roll and you're only having a certain amount of shots and then you're done, right? Like because it costs a lot of money to develop them. We travel a lot with the TV show that we work on, and in the early days of the TV show, I used to do all their photography, and then there were other people there, and you would hear their cameras like this taking photos, and I'd be like, and at the end of the day, like I've got like 40 photos all usable, and they've got to cull through thousands of photos, and I'm like, we're making a TV show. You clicking that fast is almost creating a television show.
That's right. Yeah, stop motion.
Yeah, and back then I didn't have a great camera, and some of these people on the trips had like those sponsors of like big companies. They had big lenses and cameras and all the gear, and they felt real good. And here I am getting around with my little DSLR and two little lenses, and they're like, how do you make the photos look as good, better than us with all the gear? I said, because it's not about the camera.
It's not about the camera at all.
Yeah.
And like I had this conversation with someone a little while ago. I've been looking at upgrading my camera. The camera I use is now 13 or 14 years old. And this person said, but you need to upgrade, like the latest technology. You know what? It's taking fantastic photos. It's a workhorse, and it's not about the camera. The camera just records what I see. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And people with their iPhones, right? But it's got 3 lenses. I mean, but I remember the day the digital photos, they were about this big, right? Tiny little like postage stamps. But now, literally any device that takes photos, the quality is good enough to print big prints, right? So it's about learning the skill around photography or paying somebody like you, right? That's what I did. Like I can take great photos, but it's like, having somebody with that eye and attention to detail, I think is super important. And for all of you out there, I just want to say, if you run an online business, you should have professional photos done. My team bugged me for 2 years, and I finally had them done because I kept saying, I'll just lose the weight first. And I didn't, and they still look great. So we actually do have a topic to talk about. I could talk composition and all sorts of things with you all day. I love photography, but let's actually talk about what's going to be really important to our audience, which is branding yourself using powerful images for professional impact. So that's our topic today. And I want to ask you, Rick, why do you feel that using a professional photographer is better than, just grabbing a selfie?
Sure. Look, I think the era of selfies is if it's not over, it's coming to an end as far as businesses go, because the end user, the consumer, your customer, when they look at a photo, they're not silly, okay, and they can tell now when something is staged. When we did your photos, my thing is to bring out your personality, to make you feel comfortable. And because then when your clients see how comfortable you feel and how approachable you feel, they will want to connect with you. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you're doing a selfie and every photo your arm is out here, or you've got a selfie stick, it looks fake. Okay. And with the fakeness of photos, I think, has gone. The filters that people are using, I suppose the Instagram filters that people are using, are slowly being filtered out, pardon the pun, because you can tell when someone is trying to fake something. Now, if you're trying to cover something up with a filter, the first thing that psychologically that comes into people's heads is, what are they hiding? Okay,
Yeah.
now that's a negative connotation. So if they've got some sort of negative feel towards you and your product, there's going to be that little bit of, am I spending my money with the right person? Okay. Whereas if you look at that photo and that person looks genuine and they feel like they can approach you and that they can talk to you, they're more likely to spend their money with you. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
Look, I sit in front of this camera all day teaching, and I was really nervous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When we started our photo shoot. I didn't realize how like awkward and nervous I would feel having somebody take my photo. Now I always was the person behind the camera, and taking a selfie at home is different. But I have to say, you really helped to put me at ease and make it fun, and just make me relax. It took a little while, but you even said, I can see you relaxing now
Yeah.
through it.
And that's what it's all about. Is as a photographer, my first job. Okay, so I was teaching photography, and I kept saying to my students, the first thing you've got to do, okay, is you make that person relax, because everything else, the technical aspect, okay, well, as a photographer, you don't need to think about what your settings should be. It should just happen like that. But I need to relax you, because as soon as you're relaxed, then everything else sort of flows. The poses won't look stiff and rigid, and they won't look posed. They'll look natural. So it's about making that person feel comfortable. And the way I do that, I'm a talker. Okay, so I won't shut up sometimes, and I'll talk to that person. But at the same time, by me doing that, they forget what we're there for, and they start relaxing. And I see it straight away, as I saw it with you. I'll see it with everyone. That all of a sudden, this person is relaxed, and now we can actually get to work and do things for them.
Yeah. I think it was a different experience, I guess, because being always the one, in control, and feeling vulnerable. I think that can be as well, because like I said, I kept putting it off because I wanted to lose the weight, and but having them done, especially for like the types of people we work with, they're selling high ticket programs. They're selling programs, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for their programs. And, they need to look the part as well. You need to look like what we sell our program for. If I just turned up in a tank top and it all hanging out and no makeup, it doesn't bring the brand forward, right? So what would you say, like, for somebody thinking of going out and getting their photos done, and this is a question I really want to know as well, how often do you think that, as, a personal brand ourselves, we should actually be updating our photos?
It depends on your industry. Okay, so I would suggest usually 12 to 18 months is a good time. Like some people you can get away with 2 years. In the case of, say, if you change your hairstyle, if you change your hair color, if you grow a beard, okay, so if you're a guy and you grow a beard, then definitely update your images, even if it's before the 12 to 18 months. And the example that I always use is real estate agents. Okay, now the majority, I'm not going to say all of them, but the majority of real estate agents are quite good, and some of them will actually update 2 or 3 times a year. But look at what they're selling, okay, and look at the price of houses. And let's say if they're selling a house which is, let's say, $2 million. Okay, now if they're spending $800 a year for images that's going to help them sell a $2 million house consistently, is that not a drop in the ocean?
Yeah.
Okay, now, unfortunately, a lot of people look at it from the point of view that, but I've paid all this money for photos. Now I've changed my hair. I have to do it again. That's fine, but what is that photo going to then do for you? Okay, because again, it comes down to a trust factor. And if you are, say, advertising yourself online, and you haven't had your photos taken for 10 years, and then you turn up to sell a house, okay, and the person that they've seen online looks totally different to the person that actually sees them in person, again, there's this negativity that comes into play. And can we trust this person? Was that really him? He looks a lot older. Are these questions that you want that person to be asking when you really want to be selling them that $2 million property
Yeah.
or that $1,000, training package or whatever?
Yeah. You see people out there still putting up their photos from their 20s when they looked hot, amazing, and no blemishes. And they still are using them to this day. And then I'll see their profiles on Facebook, so we try to consistently use the same profile photo across, all of our social media. So wherever they are, it's like a logo, right? This is my
That's
logo.
right.
And when I will talk to somebody and I've gotten to know them on social media from this little tiny icon, and then you jump in and they've gone white with their hair, or, they look 30 years older. There's nothing wrong with aging.
No, we all age.
That's it. I always like my hair. Embrace the regrowth, right? Thank you. But it is, you get in and you're like, oh, I don't even recognize that person. It's quite, disconcerting when you've built a relationship with this little icon, and then you jump in and you're like, that's not that person that I feel like I've been speaking to.
One of my clients actually said to me a couple of weeks ago that having their photo taken to use on LinkedIn, okay, so she was using it on LinkedIn, is like using it on a dating app, okay? Yeah. Now, if you look at it that way, all of a sudden it becomes interesting because you're on a dating app and you've put yourself out there and you want to meet a person and they're going to like you because they're going to assume that you're the same person they've seen on the dating site, okay?
Yeah.
If that person then turns up and they're 80 years old and they're advertising themselves as 50, they're not going to go out with you, right? So why should LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever be any different?
Yeah.
Okay. You're putting yourself out there, except in this case it's for business purposes. So if you're trying to pull something out of people's eyes, they're going to pick up on it.
Yeah. I love that. What a really great analogy, I think. Yeah, because we are it's marketing. It's and even when you're on a dating app, you're out there marketing. You're putting your face forward, and you want the best, face forward, because people do make decisions pretty quickly, but then to jump into a Zoom room with them and they don't look anything like it, so everybody should have a picture that looks like you today. Right?
That's
Put
right.
on a bit of lippy, brush your hair, but today, not 10 years ago when that you wish you still looked like. And so,
That's
like,
right.
I personally, some personal self-growth recently getting mine done was embrace the cuddle, right? It's all cuddly now. I'm not that skinny person I was back when I first started this business, and I'm okay with that now. It took me a little bit of mindset work to be okay with, hey, we've had COVID, we've had some other things happen. I have put on weight, but it's me. So the double chin, I try to avoid it sometimes, but also I put it out there.
Something you just said then is really interesting in how people judge you and how quickly they judge you. Now, there's an ad on TV at the moment that says that it takes 7 seconds for someone to like or dislike you. Now, that's okay when you're looking at a product, but when you're looking at a person, okay, we actually judge in under 3 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
So we will look at a photo of a person and decide within 3 seconds, and I actually believe it's probably a lot less than that. But under that time, we're going to decide whether we like that person or not. Now, could you imagine if someone has decided, yes, we like this person, we want to connect with this person, and then they see a different person, from what they've seen in their photo, and that's why you've got to be consistent. You've got to embrace yourself, like you said, Sally, and you know what? We're our biggest self-critics. Okay, we will look at ourselves and I don't like. My chin, my double chin. I don't like my teeth. All right, I just don't like my teeth. But when was the last time you actually looked at somebody's photo and said, "Geez, they've got nice teeth"? Really? As humans, we connect with people's eyes first.
So
okay?
true.
We look at the eyes. Everything else is secondary. Like How many of you have looked at me on this screen and said, geez, he's got a big nose? That's what I think when I look at myself. Like, I've got an Italian nose. I can't help it. Okay, I can change it, but I'm not going to. But see, this is where exactly what we're talking about is you're passing judgment on yourself more than what other people would for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to, I think, just, as humans, we need to love ourselves more for who we are. Like, I always say, like, when we teach people to go live and then we say, watch it back, I say, watch it back with loving eyes. Like, you're watching it as, you would someone you really love, and you should love yourself, right? But watch it back with loving eyes. Like, same. I don't even look at myself when we stream right now. Like, I used to put Post-it notes over my face because I would always just continue to look at how this lip goes up more than the other. Feels like, and now I've had eye surgery. I've got one like crazy eye that does funny things sometimes. But, I'm like, well, if I was sitting at a table with somebody having a coffee, I wouldn't be paying attention to my face.
Yep.
And
exactly
I would be looking into their eyes. I would be having a conversation. So I love that you said that about that connection. It really does start at the eyes.
Yes, 100%.
The other day I was up at Monash, and my daughter's looking at like science, engineering, chemistry, physics type of thing. And they had this display room, and there was this really cool invention where you could put on this pair of glasses and it would track what your eyes are doing, but it was tracking lots of other things like, feeling and sweat and all the things. And people were watching the around, and afterwards I was realizing I look everybody in the eye when I talk to them, because everyone said, I could tell when every time somebody spoke to you, you turned and you looked at them in the eye, because a little dot on the screen would literally show what I was seeing, and not just what I was seeing, but where I was focused on. Because that's how you build connection. And I found that really interesting, where you see other people kind of talk with their eyes down, and I think it teaches, confidence to look at people in the eyes when you're speaking with them. Right. Like, so that's where the soul starts, right? It's in the eyes.
That's right. Yeah. And then, you know as well as I do that, if you're talking to someone in person, not on obviously on the internet, but if you're talking to someone and they consistently talk to you, but their eyes are looking everywhere else, automatically you start thinking, are they not interested? Do they not want to be here?
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about.
That being said, I remember interviewing a gentleman to come and work on our team, and I'm interviewing him and his eyes are like doing this. He was doing other things during his interview on his computer screen. I'm like, you don't really want this job, right?
No, doesn't sound like it.
You mean you don't have to look at me in the eye like into the camera, but your eyes should be in one place. And
that's right.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Reba says, this was the year of embracing my golden years and loving it. So true that we look at the eyes. Yes, exactly. Like, I think the older we get, we just kind of, I don't really give a shit anymore what people think. So really, It's like, love me or hate me, move on, right?
And you know what? That Reba just came up.
Yeah.
Well, she's got a gorgeous smile, and that's just the second thing. The fact that when you connect with someone, you smile, and that's the second thing that we notice is, their eyes smile and their face lights up. So that's the other thing that's really important in photos when you're using them for branding, is you have to look approachable. And how do we look approachable? We smile. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that the second thing that I hear all the time from people. Usually they say, I hate having my photo taken. That's number one. And then number two is, I don't like smiling in photos. And I'll say, well, do you smile when I'm not taking photos? And I'll say, oh, yeah, well, what's the difference?
Yeah. When you were taking my photo, my husband was there carrying all the props, like the computer and the clothes and, the scarves and all the things. And then you're like, look over there and have a conversation. It was really good because I was looking at my husband smiling and kind of, having a chat while you're taking photos to get that kind of more natural look. And we do when we smile and we talk to people. It shows that we're relaxed as well. And a thing we teach with people, because we teach going live, talk with a smile. Even
That's
your
right.
voice changes when you're smiling and talking at the same
Yeah.
time. And if you're somebody who doesn't naturally smile when you talk, when you go live, start practicing.
That's right. That's so important. And I always say to people, one of the hardest people that I've photographed, as far as the corporate stuff goes, was a gentleman who was a lawyer. Okay,
Mm.
yeah, he would not smile. Okay, just wouldn't smile. Every photo, he was just like this. That was him. Okay, and I was trying all my tricks, and just nothing was working. And I said to him, "Look, I've got to ask, what sort of law do you practice?" And he said, "Family law," like that. And I said, "Well, do you think you might get more people if you just smiled? Just, a little." So I got a tiny little bit of a smile out of him. I thought, right, I've done my job. I've got him, smiling. That's what I wanted. Which photo did he use on his profile?
Yeah.
Not the smiling one. The one where he
Really?
was like, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's like when I was a graphic designer and people would change all the design work. And I'm like, I know what works. And then they go and totally alter it. And I'm like, it's not working now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and with photos, I know what works because I've done it for so long and I've seen what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, is for certain professions, you have to have, subtle colors on, subtle tones. So
Yeah.
you don't want to be, wearing, say, a lot of polka dots and stuff like that, because it takes away from the person. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that I always say to people is, unless it's part of your uniform or your brand, okay, then avoid polka dots, avoid stripes, wear neutral colors. So people will come in wearing polka dots and stripes and stuff like that. And the first thing I'll say is, how did you bring a change of clothes, just in case, you may not like what you see with the polka dots and stripes. No, this is what I want. And inevitably they have to come back for a second shoot because they don't like the polka dots and stripes once they've seen their photos.
Mm.
But obviously it's their problem, because
I think that's a really good tip. And I was just thinking then about like all my coaches and like all of them get professional photos and that done, and they all have one colored jacket and maybe a plain colored top, or and even when I look at the photos that my team gravitated towards, it wasn't the ones where I was wearing all the tie-dyed stuff. They went to the ones where everything was more subtle, even though they're bright, but more subtle. And they also become a little timeless as well.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Black never goes out of fashion.
Yeah. Well, in my world, I have black on today. It was because I was getting dressed in the dark and because I was up at 4 o'clock this morning and trying not to wake the family. And I'm like, I know what this top is by feel. I'll just grab that one. But yeah, I love that, wearing those. So when you go and get your photos done, guys, take a few changes of clothes. I was really glad we took a few things, and there was some things I did have like a green outfit with like little dots all over it, and you said no, not that one, do the maroon one, and they are the ones that end up getting chosen most of the time, the maroon and the plain pink ones.
And you don't have to you don't have to take this as gospel, okay? So if you like polka dots and you like stripes or whatever, you like colour, have some taken in them. But the point is, don't have all of them taken with the one outfit, because if you've got choices, if you've got options, and if you go to a good photographer, they're going to guide you anyway, and they'll tell you the right thing. Because I won't pull punches and just go with the flow because that's what they brought in. I would rather say, look, let's just try. We can do that. I'm quite happy to do that outfit with you, but let's also try something a bit more neutral. Because look at someone like Steve Jobs. Okay, he always had a black T-shirt. Why? Maybe he liked black T-shirts, I don't know. But it wasn't about what he was wearing. It was about his product. He didn't want to draw attention to what he was wearing.
Yeah.
It was about his product. Think of it in the same way.
Yeah. And I like that, with what you're choosing and what you're wearing, but that also when we did our shot, you're like, bring props. Right.
Yeah.
So like I brought my computer, my iPad, my pen. I even brought, which we didn't use, but I brought a few different scarves that I like. I brought some different headbands and even books that I like to read, like some of the more popular books that I do, and a notepad and a pen. So depending on what you do, I think, what you suggested about bringing props was really helpful because the team love that. And me with my black coffee, because everyone knows I'm a black coffee snob, right? So when we went in to the Edge, the bar cafe place, we've all ordered a round of coffee and you're like, yeah, let's stick that in the shot because that's part of my brand as well, my coffee and my computer and my iPad, because we're all digital online drinking like lots of coffee.
Well, the thing is, it's about being authentic, and that's what the whole point of this is if you're authentic with people, and they'll pick up on that, and that's what I said before about the selfies and the filters. It's not authentic anymore. Okay, like it worked maybe 2 or 3 years ago, pre-COVID. COVID made people change a lot of things. A lot of their outlooks changed. I've got an acquaintance that I know, and with her business, she tends to do a lot of selfies. And I look at them, and some of them I can tell that her kids have taken it. Okay, but I look at them and think, gosh, you could be doing so much better with your business just by putting a little bit of effort in.
Yeah.
You don't have to make a lot of effort. Make a little bit of effort,
Yeah.
and move on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. All right. So my next question is, what would be some other, so you go and get your photos done. How should we use them? Like, what are some ways in which we can use them so that we make sure that we're really maximizing their full potential?
Well, there's a lot of things that people don't use their photos on because people automatically think we're going to get a photo taken, we're going to stick it as our LinkedIn profile photo, maybe our Facebook page photo, might use it on Instagram, and then that's it. We just think social media, okay? But what about things like your email signature? Okay, why shouldn't that have your photo on it? Your business card, okay? Any media releases, have your photo on your media release. What else? Flyers. Like some people still using flyers where they might do letterbox drops, like real estate agents. Okay, I know that it's an expensive way of doing things, but it is still a marketing outlet.
Yeah.
Pop your photo on that. The point is, you've got to try and make a list that's relevant to your industry and your business. Now, for me, letterbox drops just would work. Okay, because it's not the market that I'm going for, and a lot of the times, if I did a letterbox drop into businesses, then it could be like the girl at the front counter that picks it up and says, well, this is junk mail, and puts it in the bin. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's only relevant to your industry.
Mm-hmm.
But make a list of touch points. Okay, where are people going to see your photo? And then use it. And like the business card is probably one of the most undervalued, underrated bits of marketing that people will still use in a networking event. And the reason being, okay, now I was at a networking event last night. There was about 150 odd people there. Now, I didn't get a chance to talk to 150 people to start with. But the ones that I did speak to, we exchanged cards. I've got some in my pocket. So I'm not lying. I've got some business cards that I picked up last night, still sitting in my pocket. Now, it's got their name on it. Do I remember what that person looks like? Well, I do still, because it was only last night. But now if I took these cards out of my pocket in a week's time, I've got no idea who that person is anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, photos on there, they'll remember you. They'll connect
100%.
with that.
Yes. Yeah. So important. Yeah, just thinking my business cards have a very old photo, but yeah, have a photo on it. And then, quite a lot of people don't put their photo on. And the people that follow the Sparkle world, they're people who want to teach people things. So this is our logo, right? It's our walking billboard. It's the way people will remember us. So we want to put it on all the things. Like, our workbooks, the girls are using now, the photos from our photo shoot on, and I think I love that you just start making a list and be confident enough to use them more. And there are so many like Canva, for example.
Yeah.
The amount of things that you can do in Canva, like automatically removing the background. I remember the Photoshop click, 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 feather, 2 pixel, then, you know, the other thing for the hair, and now you're one-click wonder inside of Canva. But you can do those, and they're fabulous on your business cards too. And you know, Canva will give you lots of ideas. You can even have T-shirts with your own face on them if you want.
Okay, maybe not. But yeah, but the point is, the trick is to write a list, okay? Because it's easy to sit here and say, I only really talk to people online, okay? But do you? Do you go to, for instance, there might be some BNI members, okay, that could
Yes.
have BNI events. You go to networking, like I go to the chamber events, and there's a business club event that I consistently go to. Write those things down. How do you market to the people there? Because you're in person, okay? How do you physically give them something? And it comes down to your business card. But
And
then you might,
I have a few clients that go, oh, I'll just stick it on my phone. But that physical holding of that business card with your photo on it, like how many people will actually go back in and look at the digital business cards compared to getting home like you just did and pulling that business card out and seeing that person's face on it and remembering them.
That's
And,
exactly right.
you know, the software that we use, you can literally snap a photo of the business card and it automatically adds them to your CRM. And then it triggers an email to say, I really enjoyed hanging out with you at that event. And
Now, when you do that, now you've also sent your email with the same photo on there.
yes,
Okay?
yes. So good,
Okay.
so good.
Here's your second touch point. Now they've got your photo on the card and on the email that you just followed up with.
Yep.
Okay. And there you go. You know, they've already seen you twice, 3 times, really, because they've seen you at the event,
Yep.
they've seen you on the business card, and now they've seen you on the email.
Yeah. And I mean, some of these events we get to, now that, you know, the restrictions are down, I like to do a couple of major conferences every year, you know, and there's hundreds of people there. And you get, you know, the goal is to make as many connections as possible because business comes down to networking and connections. It is about building those relationships. And a little selfishly, the podcast is a great way to make connections and to build relationships because, like you guys, when you build relationships through the podcast, we then, outside of the podcast, are usually doing backroom chats before or after, hooking up other ways we can work together. And, you know, so I think I'm not just on the podcast, but you know, the whole networking side of things. So I love that you are still using, like I have to totally get my business cards updated. So check, team, put that on my list. I need new business cards because my new business cards do not have the new business model on them anymore. So they literally just don't get used. But quite often I'll be out having a coffee even, right? And I meet somebody and we have a conversation and it's like, shoot me a DM, but how nice would it be to just give them something physical to hold on to?
Yeah. And, you know, we've got to the point where we're inundated with DMs and emails every day. My email, I don't even want to know how many's in there. So things get lost.
Yeah.
You know? And as silly as it sounds, a business card, I'll put it on the desk and it'll sit on the desk for maybe months, but it's there.
Yeah.
You know, it's physically there. And it's another touch point.
Exactly. It's a touch point. It's a way for them to remember you. I went in and got some glasses a couple of years ago, and the girl behind the counter was somebody I went to high school with. And probably 2 or so years before that, she was working in another shop and I'd given her a business card and just to connect. But she's been then watching and following what I'd been doing. And when I saw her in the glasses shop, she says, you know, I was throwing out rubbish the other day and I saw your business card and I still couldn't throw it away, because it's still sitting there. And and there's something playing around in the back of her mind of why she likes what it is that I do. And maybe one day she'll come and we'll chat again. But that made me realize like the longevity of that business card with my face on it, she's not going to forget. If it was just my brand or a logo, it would have less impact.
100%.
Yeah.
Because, you just have to think when you receive a business card and just who was that person I was speaking to? Oh, unless it's something that you need, okay, then you will, it'll have more meaning. But if you're just networking with someone, chatting, and you think, I might want to make a connection, well, it'll get lost. But I don't want it. And like I was saying, back to the touch points, they've seen you at the event, they've got your business card with your photo, the same photo, then you've got the same photo on the email, then you add them on LinkedIn. Well, there's 4, okay?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're sticking in their head. Okay, now with your photos, Sally, because they're colourful, then that'll stand out even more because that is your brand. Okay, now if I did the same thing, okay, I'll use myself as an example. If I had a beautiful scarf like what you've got on, and it's not my brand, people will look at it and go, "Oh, that's not him,"
Yeah.
So you've got to match your brand, and that's what these photos have to be like. So the best advice I can give to the listeners is when you go in to have your branding photos done, make sure that the photographer understands your brand, okay? Because it's pointless them coming up with these great ideas of what they want to do. Because if that's what they want but it doesn't match your brand, then you may as well not have them done.
Yeah.
Okay?
100%. When I phoned you and said, okay, I'm doing this photo shoot thing, and then you asked for my links to all my places. You said, I'm going to go and do some brand research and I'll chat with you just before and I'll organise. And that's when you sort of started telling me what to bring and, all that type of thing. Because you went and not only just turned up to take some photos, you actually went and researched my brand, which, I really appreciated as well, that you already knew some of the things that I liked. And I think that really shows that you have a passion for your profession as well, because it's not just taking a photo.
Important. It's not just taking a photo, no. And like I come back, one of my clients that I photographed a few years back, she actually went to have her photos done elsewhere prior to coming to me. And when she did come to me, she said, look, the photographer had lined up a branding day, okay? And basically everybody that came through got the same photos, the same desk, the same everything, even the same laptop, because basically the photographer used her own laptop.
Yeah.
So all the photos look the same. And that's why I get the client, like yourself, bring your own laptop because it's going to be different to mine, okay? I need to research. I need to see what you do, okay? I mean, I have an idea of what you do, but I need to look into what you do. And the only way I can do that is by asking questions. Now, if I had done that same shoot for you as what I do for everybody else, so everybody else's photos look exactly the same as yours, I'm not really doing your brand or their brand any justice.
Yeah.
Okay? It's called personal branding for a reason, because it's personal about the person that you're photographing, not the photographer.
And just to make it their life easier, right? Yeah, I think
that's right.
Yeah. All right. So I think we've given lots of great tips. And for anyone out there watching or listening this, I would love for you to drop in the comments or send us a message and share what your key takeaway is from some of the things that Rick and I have discussed here. But my team, I know, are probably going to be sending me messages right now that I have to do the Sparkle questions. So we always have a few Sparkle questions up our sleeve to put you on the spot a little and to find out. So I got 3 questions for you, and then I will promise my team I will do the sentence as well. So who would you say are 3 people that have really helped and supported you through this journey and inspired you along the way?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, I suppose my mum and dad would be the first ones, because the fact that, Dad wanted me to be an accountant, and there was just no way that I was ever going to be an accountant. Maths was a big fail for me. But, whenever I made the decisions of where I was going to work next and what I was going to do, they were always supportive. I guess the other 2, I don't have particular people that I inspire to or so forth, but I look at other photographers and what they do, and I get ideas from a lot of very, very talented people around the world. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people, even in your industry, should do is they get fixated on working within their community and competing with people within their community, whereas you really need to look beyond the borders and look into other countries, because there's a lot of talented people out there that are doing great stuff, and that's what I do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have a huge, abundance mindset here where, I work with other marketers, so like people who do marketing and online and help people with marketing and online. And we all teach it slightly different. And we actually still support each other's businesses as well.
100%.
And I'm always buying competitors, you could call them, courses as well, because they might have something in there that I'm like, oh, I can add that to my recipe, like the thing.
Yeah.
So I like that you've got lots of people that you look to for inspiration when you're, I guess in the photography field. There's so many different people. Is there any standouts you would say, like some of the people that have really kind of stood out in your mind in the photography industry that you see as, I don't know, not to aspire to be, but, you really love what they've done with their career?
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, when I was doing weddings, there was a guy, there still is a guy in Melbourne who's now a friend, and he's a fantastic wedding photographer, and he was always my benchmark, that when I was photographing weddings and I would see his work. He had a book. I did one of his workshops, 3-day workshops, and we all got a little book and had all of his images in there. And I would take this book with me to weddings just for inspiration, So he was always one that I thought, fantastic photographer.
Yeah.
Um,
Your wedding photography, like I watched its progression, I guess, from the early days right through till when, you don't do weddings anymore. We had a big conversation about that when we got together. That was the one type, because I did children and animals when I was doing photography, and I was always scared to do weddings. But your wedding photography was spectacular. Like, I'm guessing a lot of the awards you got too are probably from some of those weddings as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the photos, so one wedding photo scored 1 gold, 3 silvers. It's about 5 awards for one wedding photo. Look, I loved weddings at the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not where I want to be now.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way of putting it. But I enjoyed doing them, and I always aspired to be better, because the way I always look at things, and I still do, you're only as good as your last portrait session. The next one has to be better. So it doesn't matter who I'm photographing, what I'm photographing. I always try and better myself, not for their sake, because I know that they're going to get a great end product, but so that I just know that I've moved forward continuously.
Yeah. I mean, that's just good advice for everything, right?
Yeah,
even in life,
Yeah.
Always be improving and trying to do better than you did last time. Okay, so what is one common myth about your profession that you would like to debunk?
That photography is expensive. Okay, I think that's the biggest thing that that people will automatically, and I think digital has caused this issue. It's like anything, really. I mean, if you buy a Ferrari, if you're going to drive a Ferrari, okay, you don't expect to pay $10,000 for it. And photography is the same. Like there's a lot of photographers out there that are very mediocre photographers, charging a lot of money. Whereas I think that you pay for what you get, really.
Yeah.
Now, it can be expensive, and certainly I know you said you've got a lot of American listeners, and I know a lot of the photography groups that I'm in, there's a lot of American photographers, and some of them are charging exorbitant amounts of money. But the photos are very, in my opinion, not quite to my standard.
Yeah.
So do your research. Okay, so let's say for the sake of the argument, you're going to pay $1,000. Don't just go to one photographer unless you really know them and you really like their work. Look at two photographers that are charging the same sort of money, because you might find there's a second photographer there that's charging $1,300, but they're a lot higher quality.
Yeah.
It's worth paying that extra $300 for.
And honestly, when you think about how long you're saying, like, you can use, if you're not doing crazy things like me and changing your hair all the time, you can use these photos for, a couple of years, 18 months
That's
or
right.
more. Divide that down. And
That's exactly right.
and all the places you use it and put it in, this is your logo. Like when I used to do logo packages for clients, we would charge, $5,000 and $10,000 to do complete, branding packages. But as influencers, whatever word you want to call it, as somebody who wants to teach people something, transform lives, sharing your passion with the world, your face is your logo.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the cost of that photography session is way less than like all the other branding that you don't need a logo to start a business.
You are your one. No, that's right. And it comes back to what we said before. If you are selling a $2 million property and the cost of your photos is $1,000, well, it really is a drop in the ocean, because that $1,000 has actually made you maybe $20,000 commission.
Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting question for you. Okay. If you were in my seat and interviewing you, what's a question that you would have asked yourself that I didn't?
Oh, my goodness. Okay. That's put me on the spot, hasn't it?
Yeah, I like this one.
What caused? No. I was going to say, did the brides cause your white hair?
That's a great question. So, did the brides cause your white hair? Honestly, we talked about wedding photography, right? And that's why I was too scared to do wedding photography. You're a brave man. Like those people that do wedding photography.
I did wedding photography for 25 years. And I sometimes look back and think, how did I get through it? And I think at the time it was a passion. Like I thrived under pressure, and weddings are a high pressure for the ones that are doing it right. Okay. And this photographer in Melbourne that I said I always sort of looked up to his wedding photography. I had lunch with him one day and I said, do you get nervous before a wedding? Because I go crazy. I'm nervous. And he said, oh, Rick, he said, I've been doing this for a long time and I still get nervous.
Because it's one day.
One day. Now, interestingly enough, so we're talking myself and he having lunch, two professional photographers saying how nervous we get at weddings and we've been doing it both for a long, long time. And then interestingly enough, I speak to a guy who had just gone into weddings. He'd gone out and bought all the equipment. And I said to him, oh, I still get nervous before weddings. He goes, oh, I don't. You just turn up and take some photos.
Yeah. He's not going to last long.
He didn't. He lasted 2 years.
Yeah. I think
that pressure gave me the edge.
Yes, yeah. Look, when we go through launches, I always still get nervous through a launch, and it's because there is that when I think it's when you're really passionate about something, and to me, it's not about the money; it's about the outcome. Like, how am I going to be able to? Will I serve well? Will I help them well? And that's why I still get nervous during a launch, like you do with with your wedding when you did weddings. But I was always too scared of weddings because I was scared of the messing it up. What if, and that's why I say you're brave to do weddings. And, even I took photos for a friend's wedding once. Oh my God, she was so cranky. And I'm like, I'm doing this as a favor. And so, yes, the Nightmare Bride as well. I'm pretty sure you've probably seen a few of those.
Oh, one or two.
Oh, it's a stressful day though. I cracked on my wedding day after we did the cutting of the cake photos, which you took. My husband and I were done. We were done. We were looking after, I wouldn't do what we did again for our wedding because we were literally like looking after everybody because we had it at my mum's house and everyone else was having fun except my husband and I. So we went home and let everyone, go and do all their things. And then we actually felt like we should have just did our honeymoon and got married there. But the one thing is like, because we had the whole medieval theme and the dogs dressed up and, they're still really beautiful photos and, I love them. I love them.
What you said, though, about you're passionate, so that's where the nerves, I suppose, kick in. I still get people. So I stopped doing weddings in 2018. I stopped advertising. And I will still get people email me saying, oh, you did such and such a person's wedding. How much to charge? And of course, I write back and say, look, I don't do them anymore. I put my prices up. I've priced myself out of the market. I now will charge $10,000 for a wedding. And it's purely because of the fact that some people out there just say, well, we want you to do it. But I don't want to be put under that pressure anymore.
Yeah.
I enjoy what I do with my business photography. I still do, as you can see in the background, there's family portraits there. I still do family portrait photography. But it's a big day. A wedding is a big day and it's a stressful day.
And our shoot was so fun. Like,
yeah,
I had so much fun on our shoot.
And you remember that, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. We had fun. We had coffee. Finished with a glass of wine. Like, it was a really fun afternoon. And the fact my husband came along as well made it really special because, and it was the day before our wedding anniversary, which was like, whoa, All right, so the one thing my team, and she's not highlighting it in my sheet right now, but last time she was, because I did like 4 episodes in a row and forgot to do this, which is the thing they all like me to do. So you've got to say and repeat this sentence. Okay. I'm Rick and I sparkle because...
Okay. And then I've got to say the why.
Yes, please.
I'm Rick and I sparkle because I give you quality images for your branding.
Yes, you do. So good. So all of the images that you see floating out across social right now are because of this amazing man. He has done like many years in, and you can see it in like working with him and also not just working with him myself, but, watching your evolution over the years and the fact that since you were in grade 2, and you're still doing it. And there are very few people that can find their passion and still be that passionate that many years later. So, I mean, you're a lucky man, right, to do what you love.
I think that I do what I love. I'm lucky, but I also create my own luck, I think.
Yeah. Well, when people say, oh, your business is really good, you're lucky. We're not lucky. We work hard.
We work hard.
And it's when you're passionate.
If you enjoy what you do, it's not work.
Exactly. When you're passionate, you're like me, crazy, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning this morning, preparing for today and all the things because it's not work. Like if you had asked me before I started this business, if I would get up before 7 o'clock, I would be, nope. What are you talking about? That's crazy. All right. Well, before we go, Rick, if people want to find out more about you, where's the best place to come and stalk you and learn more about you?
It would be hard to stalk me because I've got 2 Instagram pages, one which is at Image to Brand Photography and the other one which is Ricardo Photography Geelong. I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on there just by keying my name in. Facebook, Ricardo Photography or Image to Brand Photography, so I'm everywhere.
Yes, excellent. All right, well, if anyone is interested in hiring Rick or you reach out to me or reach out to Rick, I can highly recommend his services. And when you hire somebody who has just as much passion for what they do, it's not about, them and getting a sale. It's about serving you. And I can tell you, Rick, he the man. He's very, very good at what he does and has a lot of passion. So before we go, thank you so much, Rick. Now, for anyone, we do have another guest lined up. Coming up, we have, I didn't change the name there. I am so sorry. You can tell I did this at 4 o'clock in the morning. We have our next guest, Kerry, who's coming up. All right, the topic's there, but I had the wrong name. This is what we call imperfect action at its best. So I'm going to watch me work. I'm going to go here right now. Poor Kerry. I saw she was on the live stream actually commenting before. So I'm going to copy Kerry's name from my thing so that it is right. Watch this. So we go here, we click this little button. This is how Sally imperfect action works. We paste in Kerry's name just like so. We save, and there it is, right? So Kerry is coming up next in about 50 minutes from now. So don't miss it. She's amazing. We caught up recently after we've known each other for a long time, but we really only ever speak at events, and recently we caught up, and she is great with fashion and like how to dress for your body shape, how to dress for your brand so that you appeal to the right audiences. So if you really love the photography side of things and now you want to go deeper on, how do I like dress the part in a way that is going to showcase your brand and understand, what the heck should you be wearing in 2022, then join me at the top of the next hour and I'll see you there on Straight Talk with Sally. But thank you so much, Rick. It's been super fun. I've really enjoyed myself. Yes, I've loved having you here. So everyone, have a great one. We'll see you at the top of the next hour if you're following along for Podcast Batching Day.
I will not bow down. Keep putting me off, I'm not gonna change my mind. You're headstrong forward, but this time around I'm taking my time. Don't push me, I'm not coming down, I'm not giving up. Oh, don't rush me, I made up my mind, going straight